Hello everyone and welcome back to the Lighthouse Online. We hope that you've had a really good week and that last week with all the sunshine that we had, you had some nice time outside. Well, it's great to have you all with us again. Laura, why are you dressed like a doctor today?
Well, that's because today we are thinking about a man called Naaman who was sick, but he was made well by God. And we'll find out how Jesus is like a doctor, like these guys, like me, but he is the only doctor with the cure that we all need, better than all the other doctors that you might find.
Sounds interesting.
Well as the Bible talk, there'll also be an odd one out game, a challenge from Dan, a puppet craft, and a new song called Dr. Jesus to help us explore today's story.
Great, well I wonder, will Naaman in the story get cured of his disease? And if so, who will heal him? Will God help him? And how? And most importantly, what's the story of a man with sore skin got to do with us? And what will it tell us about God?
Well, some great questions as usual. We'll be finding out the answers to those and lots more later on. But first, it's time for our game. We are going to play a game called Odd One Out. In a minute, you will see a variety of objects which all have something in common, except for one. That one is the odd one out, and it's your job to work out which one it is. There's also a bonus point up for grabs too, if you can work out what all the other objects have in common. What's the theme? So 1 point for guessing each odd one out correctly, and another point if you guess the theme, what all the other items have in common in each round. We're going to play 5 rounds and I'll go through the answers at the end. First, you need to grab some paper and a pen. So 10 seconds to do that now. Got your paper and a pen? Okay. Are you ready? Here we go. Which is the odd one out and what all the other items have in common? Here's round 1. You managed to get those 5 answers down. Well done if you managed to guess the themes as well. Okay, it's time to go through the answers. There are 10 points in total up for grabs if you get the odd one out and the theme for each round. Round 1, they were all things you use for cooking. So a point if you got that right. And the odd one out was the sunglasses. So another point if you spotted those. Round 2, they were all things you use for gardening. And the odd one out was the little white candle, which is called a tea light. Round 3, they were all things you use for craft or making things. And the odd one out was the lemon. Round 4, they were all things that help you get better when you are sick or when you've hurt yourself. And the odd one out was the glue stick. And round 5, they were all things that you use to clean. And the odd one out was the potato. How many did you get right? Do let us know your score and we can announce the winners next time. Well, in the final 2 rounds of that game, we saw objects to do with washing and making ourselves and our houses clean. And we saw things that we would use to help us get better if we are sick. And that's because in our story today, God heals a man who is sick and makes a man clean who many people thought was dirty. We'll also be thinking about how the Bible tells us that we are sick, but we can be made well, and how we are dirty, but we can be made clean. Don't worry if that all sounds a bit confusing. All will be revealed in a little bit. Listen carefully now as I tell you the story. This term, we're finding out that God cares for us. We've already heard 9 true Bible stories that show us how God cares for us. Today, I'm going to tell you another true story from the Bible about what happened to a man called Naaman and how he found out that God cares for him. Naaman was a very important man. He had real power. He was the commander of the king's army, and God had used him to win many battles for the king. When he told people to do something, they did it. But there was one thing that he couldn't fix. He was very sick. His skin was very sore because he had this horrible disease called leprosy. It meant that he had nasty sores all over his body. And people didn't want to get too close to him in case they caught it. In those days, people thought that people with leprosy were dirty and unclean. Naaman had been to see every doctor, but no one could help him. Not that doctor. Not that doctor. No doctor could help him. Now Naaman found out about a prophet called Elisha. Can you remember what a prophet does? A prophet is like a postman. He gives God's message to people. That's what Elisha did. So Naaman, having tried everything else, thought he might as well see if Elisha could help him. So Naaman travelled to Elisha's house. And when he arrived, Elisha didn't go and see him. Instead, he sent a messenger outside to meet Naaman. The messenger said, "Go and wash yourself in the Jordan River. Then your skin will be healed and you will be clean." Naaman couldn't believe it. He thought that Elisha would at least come out to meet him himself. He was angry. He said, "He wants me to go swimming in his river? Why not my river? Isn't he even going to say a prayer and call on the name of the Lord his God? What about waving his hand over my skin? He hasn't even touched me. Just a swim." Naaman was cross. This was never going to work, he thought. But just then, one of Naaman's servants came to him and said, "If the prophet told you to do some great thing, you would have done it, wouldn't you? So why not just do this? After all, he only said, 'Wash, and you will be clean.'" So Naaman decided to obey Elisha's instructions. He went down to the Jordan River, just over there, and he dipped in it 7 times, just as Elisha had told him to do. One, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. They've all gone. Wow. It had worked. Naaman's skin was new again, like the skin of a little boy. And he was clean. No more illness. Look at his smiling face. Naaman was so pleased that he wanted to give Elisha a gift to say thank you. He offered Elisha money, fine clothes, and gold. But Elisha would not take any of it. Instead, Elisha said, "It's not me who healed you, it's the living God of the Bible. Only he cares enough to heal you." Naaman decided that there is no God like the living God of the Bible. That day, Naaman found out that God can heal because he cares about us. Wasn't that story amazing? God really did heal Naaman, and that story reminds us that God can still heal people today. There are people today who have experienced God healing them from diseases or sicknesses that they've been suffering with. And when that happens, it truly is amazing. God really can do miracles, and he still does heal people today. But God doesn't always heal us physically in this life. And as we know, there's still a lot of sickness and death in the world today. We've seen a lot of that, haven't we, over the past few months with the coronavirus. God doesn't promise to heal us physically from illnesses in this life, although sometimes he might. But he does promise to heal us from the disease of sin that we are all suffering with. We've all said, "Shove off God, I'm in charge, no to your rule." We've all rejected God and gone our own way, not caring about him or others. This is sin, and it means that our hearts are diseased and full of decay. Like an apple that is starting to rot, we are dirty on the inside. It's like the sin starts small and grows bigger and bigger until our whole hearts are decayed and full of sin. In today's story, Elisha said to Naaman, "Wash and you will be clean." Naaman was made clean by God when he washed in water. It wasn't the water itself that made him clean, it was God. And in the same way, we can be made clean on the inside by God. We can wash our hands to make us clean on the outside, and at the moment we're having to wash them even more than usual due to the coronavirus. But this won't make us clean on the inside. We can't make our hearts clean by ourselves. There is nothing we can do to clean our hearts. The only thing that can make us clean on the inside is Jesus. Over 2,000 years ago, God came to the earth in the form of a man, Jesus. He lived the perfect life and he died on a wooden cross so that we could be made clean. He took the sin from our hearts upon himself as he died on the cross. He took everyone's sin upon himself, not just one heart, but the whole world. His blood washes our dirty, sinful hearts and makes us clean, spotless and perfect in God's eyes. There's not a stain on it. We don't need to dip in water to be made clean on the inside. All we need to do is to trust in Jesus and in what he did on the cross. Trust in his blood that washes us clean. If we believe in Jesus and in the power of his blood, we are forgiven for our sin, friends forever with God, and made perfect for life forever with him. This is better than being healed from any illness in this life. This is the ultimate healing. Being healed and made clean forever by Jesus. Jesus does this for us because he cares about us. Well, I hope you're listening carefully to the story because, as usual, I have some questions for you. Question 1. What was Naaman's problem and why was it such a big problem for him? Can you remember? What was his problem and why was it such a big problem? Well, Naaman had a disease called leprosy, which gave him very sore skin. It meant he was considered unclean and dirty, and people didn't want to come too near in case they caught his disease. Okay, question 2. Naaman decided to visit Elisha, the prophet, as no doctors could help him. What happened when Naaman went to Elisha's house? Can you remember what happened? Well, Elisha sent a messenger to meet Naaman, who told him to dip in the Jordan River 7 times and then he would be clean. Okay, question number 3. Why was Naaman angry and what happened next? Why was he angry and what happened next? Can you remember? Well, he thought Elisha should have met him himself. He was cross he didn't come out of his house to meet him himself. He thought Elisha should have called out to God, waved his hands over him, or done some other great sign. But he did finally obey Elisha's instructions, and he went into the Jordan River 7 times. He dipped in, didn't he? Remember, we saw Mr. Potato Head going into the water. And when he came out, amazingly, he was made clean. He was completely healed from his illness. Okay, question 4. Naaman wanted to give Elisha a gift to say thank you. But why wouldn't Elisha accept it? And what does this story tell us about God? So why wouldn't Elisha accept the money, the gift, and what does the story tell us about God? Well, Elisha wouldn't accept anything because it was God who had healed Naaman, not Elisha. And this story tells us that God can heal us and make us clean because he cares about us. Okay, and the last question, question number 5. God doesn't always heal people's diseases on the outside like he did with Naaman. But how does God always heal people on the inside? Can you remember what we said? How does God heal people on the inside? There's a clue in the picture behind me. Well, when God came to earth, he died on the cross to heal our hearts. He swapped our sin, our dirty hearts, with his perfection. He washed our dirty, sinful hearts clean with his blood when he died for us on the cross. And whoever believes in this and who trusts in Jesus as their saviour, they will be made clean on the inside and healed forever. They will be forgiven, made perfect, and be able to live forever with God. Well done for having a go at answering those questions, especially if you had a go at all 5. And if you did, here's a star for you. It's time for this week's challenges. For our first challenge, Dan has got a game for us all about things that make you better and things that make you clean. Over to you, Dan.
Well, hello everyone. Hope you have been enjoying the last few weeks, enjoying the sun. I know I have. Today's story has been all about a man who was healed from leprosy, and as we can remember, God washes him in the lake to make him feel better. And quite a story indeed. Well, I wonder what makes you feel better. Is it spending time sleeping after a busy day? Or is it just, spending time watching a good film or playing a good game? So today I have an interesting list game for you to do of things that will make you feel better and things that will make you feel clean. So how this is going to work, I'm going to give you 3 categories and you have 15 minutes to guess 5 items within those categories. So are you ready? Are you steady? Let's dive in. So first one is, list 5 things you would find in a doctor's surgery. Okay, your time is up. Here's the second one. List 5 things you would find in your bathroom. Time's up. Okay, so this is the final list. List 5 things you would clean with. Okay, your time is up. Put your pencils down and we'll go through the answers. Okay, so here's our answers for our first one. If you got most of these right, then well done. If you've got a stethoscope, bed, x-ray, gloves, plasters, tissues, scale, sink, cotton swabs, bandages, hand sanitizer, thermometer, paper towels, microscope, first aid kit, and medicine. At least you got some of them right, then well done. Okay, so here's our second list, what you would find in the bathroom. Yeah, bath, mirror, toilet, shower, towels, toilet roll, soap, toothbrush, bath mat, powder, shampoo, sink, sponge, hairbrush, medicine, and rubber duck. Then well done. And here is the final list, what you would use to clean with. If you had mop, broom, hose, sponge, toilet brush, vacuum cleaner, toothbrush, disinfectant, or washing up liquid, then spot on. Well done if you managed to get through that challenge. But now it is time for our bonus challenge. So we have been told that Jesus' blood washes us clean on the inside by healing our dirty hearts and cleaning them as well. In this picture you can see 3 bottles, but 2 of them are clean and 1 of them is dirty and needs to be dunked and washed. The 2 that are clean are stuck down, but the one that is dirty will be dunked in the water. But can you guess which one? Well, it is time for Dr. Jesus to work his magic. Right, let's see if you're right. Good job, guys. It is now healed from sin by the help of Jesus. But Jesus is the healer, the doctor. And God has given us the opportunity for us to be healed too, by knowing him. Back to you, Laura.
Thanks, Dan. Do let us know how you got on and how many you got right. Well, today we've heard how God healed Naaman from his disease by washing him clean in water. So we are going to make a God Heals Naaman cup craft to help us retell today's true Bible story. For this, you will need some white or blue paper, or if you have a white or blue paper cup, that's perfect, but we can make our own just with some white or blue A4 paper, a straw or a lollipop stick, another sheet of white paper or card, if you've got it, that would be great, some fish stickers if you have them, or some coloured paper, some other coloured paper, so different colours, to make some paper fish. That's what we're going to do. Or if you have some tin foil, that could be quite useful too to make some fish, or whatever you have, or just white paper will be fine. And you'll need some colouring pens or colouring pencils so you can make your fish different colours, and also some glue stick glue's fine, some scissors, and definitely some sellotape. First, if you don't have a paper cup, make your own by rolling a sheet of A4 blue paper or card widthways into a tube shape like this. You might need to get someone to hold it whilst you sellotape all the way along. Join it together. Okay. Okay, so sellotape all the way along, and then slightly flatten it and fold up one end. That. Fold it, and some more sellotape along there. Secure it. Okay, and that is all. You have now made a paper pocket cup alternative. You might want to trim off the top a little bit if it's a bit too long. Okay, and we want it to be blue. I've chosen blue paper for this because it needs to represent the River Jordan from our story today. If you've only got white paper, then try to colour it in blue with your coloured pencils or pens. So if you've used a ready-made cup, you'll need to cut off the rim now. But if not, we're ready for the next stage. And now, using our scissors, for either the ready-made paper cup or the paper pocket, we are going to cut around the top edge to make it look like waves. So cut a wavy edge using your scissors. So it's easier if we've made a paper pocket, because we can cut through both sides at once. Just make it a little bit wavy to look like the water. Okay, and the next thing we need to do is to make a hole in the bottom of our paper cup or paper pocket using our scissors, just big enough for a straw to fit through. You might want to cut out a little triangle shape for this, so it's big enough, and then take your straw and push it through to just see if it fits. Yes. Okay, so you have made the first part. The next thing we need to do is to make our Naaman figure. Now we need to make our Naaman figure. Now, on your white paper or card if you have it, draw a simple man. Now, it can be a stick man. I've put a template attached to this video, so if you have a printer at home, you could print it off and use those cartoon Naamans instead by cutting them out and colouring them in. But if you don't, you can draw them instead. I'm going to show you how to do that. So you need to draw two Naamans, one unhappy, dirty and sick one with all the sores all over his body, and one happy, well and clean after God has healed him. So draw two men, the same, but one man has a smile and the other one has an unhappy face. And on the unhappy one, draw lots of spots or sores all over his body, and then colour in both men and roughly cut them out. So stick your Naamans back to back to the end of your straw using sellotape and glue. So we're going to stick the first Naaman, so I've put him back, use sellotape for the first one just across the straw. And for the second one, we're going to put some glue around here and stick the second one back to back. So I'm just going to put some glue on the top part. Stick him on it, and I'm going to try to put a bit of glue at the bottom as well. I need to hold that down. And then we have made our Naaman puppet. So we can put him in and see he can turn the different sides. So the next thing we need to do, the last thing we need to do before we put our puppet into the river, is to decorate the river, if we like, with some fish. You could just draw some fish on there with some colouring pens, or you could use some different coloured paper to cut out some fish shapes and stick them on, or your tin foil, or if you have fish stickers, that's great too. And finally, put your Naaman puppet, once you've got all the fish that you like in the river, so you put the puppet on the straw into the cup or paper pocket and push the end of the straw so it comes all the way through. And now we're ready to tell the story. So make sure the sad, dirty and spotty and sick Naaman is facing forwards to start. Here we go. Naaman was sick and dirty with a disease called leprosy. He went into the river Jordan and washed himself 7 times as God had told him to through the prophet Elisha. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And when Naaman came out of the river after dipping 7 times, he was clean and he was so happy. And as you make this craft and use it to retell today's story, just remember how Jesus can heal your heart and make you clean too, because he cares for you. And if you're trusting in Jesus, he will wash you clean on the inside. Our sickness is sin, but Dr. Jesus is the cure that we all need. Well, if you do complete one of this week's challenges, please ask your grown-up at home to send us in your photos and messages, and you can be part of the Lighthouse Online next week. Well, today we've heard the true story of when God healed Naaman by washing him clean in water. And we've also found out that we can be washed clean and healed on the inside by Jesus. It's like Jesus is the doctor who is the only one who can cure the disease of sin that we all have in our hearts. So let's sing a song all about that called Dr. Jesus. It's by Awesome Cutlery and it will remind us of how we can all be healed by Jesus. Don't forget to join in with the actions.
Have you been to see the doctor? Feeling fully fine. They say, why did you come here? It's a waste of time. But there is a doctor we all need to see. Jesus Christ is calling, come and follow me. Dr. Jesus will see you now. Here's a brand new start. Not just for the things unsure, seeds inside our hearts. Dr. Jesus will help you now. Forgiveness is the thing. The healthy don't need a doctor, it is the sick. When the sinners came to see him, others criticized. Why does Jesus eat with them, people we despise? But the doctor ordered that they would belong. God's kingdom is for those who know they've done wrong. Dr. Jesus will see you now. Gives a brand new start. Not just for the things unsure, seeds inside our heart. Dr. Jesus will help you now. Forgiveness is the thing. The healthy don't need a doctor, it is the sick. When we came to Christ, he saved us like he said he would. Through his death and life again, we've been changed for good. Come and see the doctor, come just as you are. Jesus Christ is calling, don't need a doctor, it is the sea.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed the Lighthouse Online this week. Tune in next Wednesday when we'll be continuing our God Cares series, and we'll be finding out how Jesus cared for a man who had no friends. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
See you next Wednesday.